Welcome back to the channel, USA Coins 69, fellow treasure hunters, coin collectors, and everyone curious about the hidden stories behind America's most iconic coins. Today, we're taking a deep dive into one of the most familiar yet historically rich coins in U.S. coinage, the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a small copper coin that once bought a handful of candy, but now, could potentially be worth a small fortune. Yes, you heard that right, that humble 1-cent piece in your collection, your coin jar, or maybe even sitting in a forgotten drawer might actually be a rare and valuable gem, especially if it comes from the year 1951 with the right mint mark and condition. This coin is not just a tiny piece of metal, it's a fragment of American history, a silent witness to a post-war nation finding its feet again, and for a few lucky collectors, a ticket to real monetary treasure. Let's start by rewinding the clock back to 1951. The United States was still feeling the echoes of World War II, stepping into a time of optimism, growth, and rapid change. Television was rising, cars were booming, and the American middle class was expanding fast. Coins minted in this era weren't just money, they were symbols of national pride, economic recovery, and everyday American life, and in the middle of it all was the Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that had already earned legendary status. Introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, this 1-cent coin was a revolutionary change in U.S. coinage. It was the first time a real person, let alone a president, was featured on a regular issue coin. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse of the coin displays the iconic right-facing portrait of Lincoln, while the reverse shows two simple but powerful wheat stalks arching upward, framing the words, 1 cent and United States of America. The coin was a hit, and it remained in circulation until 1958, after which the reverse design changed to the Lincoln Memorial. But not all Lincoln Wheat Pennies are created equal, some are ordinary, struck by the millions and worn by time. Others, however, are rare survivors, minted under special conditions, struck with errors, or preserved in such remarkable condition that they become the stuff of numismatic legend. The 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of those fascinating coins, particularly when it carries a mint mark and shows extraordinary traits. Now, let's break it down. In 1951, Lincoln Wheat Pennies were struck at 3 major U.S. mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a D; San Francisco, marked with an S. Philadelphia produced the most that year, over 284 million coins, while Denver produced around 625 million, and San Francisco made just 136 million. While that might sound like a lot, here's where things get interesting. Finding a 1951 penny today is fairly common, but finding one in mint condition, or with unique characteristics like an error or double die, is an entirely different story. Some of these coins have become incredibly valuable because of minting mistakes that slipped past quality control. These so-called errors can dramatically increase a coin's worth, sometimes turning a 1-cent piece into a 5-figure treasure. For example, a double die obverse can show noticeable doubling on the date or lettering, especially on Liberty or In God We Trust. A misaligned die, a weak strike, or even a coin struck off-center or on a flawed planchet can also make the coin far more desirable to collectors. And then there's condition, which is everything. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, from 1 to 70, with anything over MS 65, mint state, considered in exceptional condition. Most coins in circulation suffer from wear and damage, but a small number of 1951 Lincoln Wheat Pennies have survived the decades untouched, in near-perfect condition. These high-grade examples are incredibly rare, and collectors are willing to pay top dollar to own one. The mint mark adds another layer of excitement. Coins with the S mark from San Francisco tend to be scarcer and often attract higher values in pristine condition. The D mint mark from Denver also carries strong interest among regional collectors and investors alike. So what do you need to look for? Start by carefully examining the coin's date and mint mark. Then take a closer look. Are the letters and numbers crisp and clear? Does the surface still shine? Are there any strange textures, doubling, or misalignments? Don't just glance, study the coin with a magnifying glass or even a phone camera. If something stands out, don't ignore it. And here's the golden rule: never clean your coins. A shiny penny may look nice, but cleaned coins lose their original surfaces and significantly drop in value. Let your coin be natural, even with its age marks. That's how collectors want it. You may be wondering, has anyone really made serious money from a 1951 Lincoln wheat penny? Absolutely. And here comes the part you've been waiting for. A 1951 Lincoln wheat penny with a rare die error and near-flawless mint state 67 red condition, carrying the D mint mark, was authenticated by a top grading service and eventually auctioned off at a major coin event. After intense bidding from collectors and investors alike, the final price blew everyone away. That little copper coin, worth just 1 cent when it was made, was sold for an incredible $60,000. Yes, you heard it right. $60,000, and who knows? One of those coins might be sitting in your old collection right now, or even in a forgotten jar of loose change. That's the thrill of coin hunting. The excitement. The mystery. The hope that your next discovery could be a life-changing one. So the next time you pick up a penny, take a moment. Look at the date. Check the mint mark. You just might be holding a tiny piece of American history that's worth far more than anyone could guess. Today's episode is going to take you on a fascinating ride through American history, back to a time when the world was changing fast and the United States was standing tall on the world stage. We're talking about the year 1945, a year etched into every history book and whispered across generations. It was the final year of World War II, a year that brought hope, victory, and rebuilding. And among all the massive events of that time, something small and copper was being minted, something that still carries value, history, and secrets to this very day. That's right, we're diving deep into the story of the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny, a 1-cent coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but for some collectors, has turned into a rare and astonishingly valuable treasure. Now, if you've ever held a Lincoln wheat penny in your hand, you've held more than just a coin. You've held a moment in time. The obverse shows the proud, steady face of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor D. Brenner, unchanged since its debut in 1909. The reverse, of course, carries those two iconic wheat ears arched on either side of the bold words, 1 cent and United States of America. This coin doesn't shout with flashiness, it whispers with dignity, with strength, with the resilience of a nation that just came through the storm of global war. But here's where things start to get really interesting. While millions of these coins were produced in 1945 at 3 different U.S. mints, Philadelphia, with no mint mark, Denver, with a D, and San Francisco, with an S, not all of them are the same. Sure, many have faded into history, worn down by years of circulation. But a few have survived in ways that collectors dream about. Some were preserved in near-perfect condition, untouched by decades of use. Others carry rare minting errors that make them highly desirable, sometimes turning a humble penny into a 5-figure prize. Let's talk about that for a moment. What makes one penny worth just 1 cent and another worth a fortune? It all comes down to condition, rarity, and minting quirks. Coins are graded on a scale of 1 to 70. A coin graded MS 65 or higher, MS meaning mint state, is considered superb. These coins are sharp, clean, and untouched by circulation. When a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny appears in this state, especially with a D or S mint mark in a rich, original red copper color, it becomes the focus of intense attention from collectors around the world. But the excitement doesn't stop there. Let's say you find a 1945 penny with doubled lettering, where the date or the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," appear slightly shadowed or doubled under magnification. That could indicate a double die error, which dramatically increases a coin's value. Other anomalies, like off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, or clipped planchets, can skyrocket interest and value instantly. And here's something many collectors don't know: coins from San Francisco in 1945, marked with an S, had slightly lower production numbers and are harder to find in high grade today. That means if you find a 1945 S in exceptional condition or with an error, you may just be sitting on a small fortune. So, how do you check? Take your coin and look closely. What's the mint mark? Is it clean, bold, and readable? Examine the coin's surface. Does it still have luster and shine? Are the details of Lincoln's face and the wheat ears crisp and sharp? Does anything look off or unusual about the lettering or edges? If your answer to any of those is yes, then congratulations, you might be holding something far more than a copper penny. But here's the most exciting part. Stories have emerged from across the US of ordinary people stumbling upon extraordinary coins. Some were found in old coffee tins, handed down through generations. Others appeared in estate sales or even local flea markets. And one particularly well-preserved 1945 Lincoln wheat penny was carefully stored away in a private collection for decades, never cleaned, never mishandled, and eventually submitted to a top-tier grading service. The results: it was awarded a Mint State 67 red grade, an exceptional and rare condition. The coin's brilliance, color, and strike quality were all virtually flawless. It went to auction where coin collectors from around the country battled for ownership, each one knowing just how rare a find like this truly is. When the final bid was placed and the auctioneer's gavel came down, the room was stunned. That single 1-cent coin from 1945, small, simple, copper, was sold for an unbelievable total of $64,000. Yes. You heard that correctly. $64,000 for 1 penny. So, the question is, what's in your pocket? What's in that dusty box of coins in the attic? What's sitting unnoticed in your coin jar? The next time you come across a Lincoln wheat penny from 1945, don't brush it off as common. Look closely. Pay attention to the details. That tiny coin could be more than a keepsake. It could be a key to history, and maybe, just maybe, a ticket to an incredible payday. Today's journey is going to leave you absolutely amazed. We're about to uncover the mystery behind one of the most fascinating coins in American history, a small copper piece that many overlook, but that collectors around the world chase with great passion. You might have even held one in your hands without realizing what you were looking at. We're talking about the 1955 Lincoln wheat penny, a 1-cent coin that's far from ordinary. This is not just a coin, it's a story etched in metal, a link to a time when America was booming with post-war progress and prosperity, a time when the country was entering a new age, yet still honoring the traditions of its past. And within this little coin lies an exciting twist that turned it into one of the most sought-after collectible pennies ever minted. Let's go back to 1955. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president. The Cold War was heating up. Rock and roll was just beginning to rise. Gas cost just 23 cents a gallon. Amidst all of this, the U.S. Mint was busy producing millions of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy. And among the many coins that came out that year, the Lincoln wheat penny was still a staple of American currency. Now, for most people, a penny is just a penny. But the Lincoln wheat penny has always held a special place in American hearts. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and what a figure to choose. Lincoln's legacy of unity, strength, and leadership made him a natural symbol for everyday Americans. And in 1955, the coin still bore his image on the front, and the iconic wheat stalks on the reverse, which gave the coin its popular nickname, the wheat penny. But here's where the 1955 edition becomes legendary. That year, something unusual happened at the Philadelphia Mint. Due to a mechanical mishap during production, a small number of pennies were struck with a strong double die error, one of the most dramatic and clear doubling effects ever seen in U.S. coinage. The date, 1955, the words, "Liberty," and, "In God We Trust," all appear with a shadow-like doubling that's easily visible to the naked eye. And this wasn't subtle. This doubling was so bold that even those who know nothing about coins could spot it instantly. At the time, these flawed coins were accidentally released into circulation, mostly in the Boston area. Some ended up in cigarette vending machines, others were handed out as change in corner stores. And before long, collectors began to notice. The 1955 double-die penny became an overnight sensation, and even non-collectors began looking through their spare change in hopes of finding one. Even outside of the error variety, the 1955 penny is fascinating. Most were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which means no mint mark was included. Others were struck at Denver, marked by a small D below the date. While the Denver Mint didn't produce the famous double die, it did make some coins that are quite valuable when preserved in pristine condition. There's also the San Francisco Mint, which by 1955 had stopped producing pennies, making any with an S mint mark from this year non-existent, so if you ever see one, be cautious, it might be altered or counterfeit, but what really drives the 1955 penny's value today is its condition. A circulated coin, worn down over decades, might still fetch a few bucks. But one in uncirculated, gem-quality condition? That's where things get exciting. If the coin still holds its rich reddish luster, shows no signs of scratches, and has sharply defined details, especially in Lincoln's hair, the wheat stalks, and the rims, then you may be looking at something truly special. Professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC grade these coins on a 70-point scale. A 1955 Lincoln wheat penny graded MS65 red or higher is extremely rare. Combine that with an error like the double die, or even just exceptional mint quality, and you've got a coin that collectors will bid fiercely for. And let's not forget about the real-world stories that continue to make headlines. One lucky coin enthusiast discovered a 1955 double-die Lincoln wheat penny while sorting through an inherited coin collection from his grandfather, never knowing that one small coin tucked in an old album could be worth more than a car. That coin had been untouched for years, preserved in a dark, dry space, completely uncirculated. It was later submitted for grading and certified as MS65 red. The value? Well, that's the part you've been waiting for. A single, near-perfect 1955 Lincoln wheat penny, with crisp strike, full original luster, and no signs of wear, was recently auctioned for a staggering $68,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $68,000 for a coin most people would overlook in a handful of pocket change. This is why coin collecting is not just a hobby, it's a treasure hunt. Hidden in jars, drawers, and forgotten coin boxes across the country could be pennies like this one, just waiting to be discovered. So next time you come across an old wheat penny, especially one from 1955, don't pass it by. Look closely. Examine the date. Check the quality. That little copper coin might just be your golden ticket. Today, we are diving deep into a coin that's more than just a tiny piece of copper. It's a window into American history, a coin with mystery, rarity, and one that has shocked collectors with its incredible auction price. Get ready to explore the legendary 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that could be sitting unnoticed in a box, a drawer, or even a jar of old change in your house. And what makes this specific year so special? Let's find out. The year 1944 was a defining time in American history. World War II was raging across the globe. Soldiers were fighting bravely overseas, and back home, the United States was operating at full capacity, factories producing war supplies, families growing victory gardens, and citizens participating in metal and rubber drives to support the war effort. Everything, including coin production, was influenced by the needs of war. Now, here's where the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny becomes more than just a coin. A year earlier, in 1943, the U.S. Mint had temporarily stopped using copper for pennies and instead produced them from zinc-coated steel. These were the famous steel cents, created to save copper for wartime materials like bullets and wiring. But by 1944, copper returned to circulation. The Mint began melting down leftover ammunition shells from the war to strike brand new Lincoln cents. So, every 1944 penny you find carries with it the legacy of sacrifice and patriotism, an actual part of American war history in your hand. Now let's talk about mint marks. The 1944 Lincoln wheat penny was produced at three major mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a small d; and San Francisco, marked with an S. Most of the 1944 pennies are fairly common in circulated condition, especially the Philadelphia issues. However, the real treasures lie in the details. Certain errors, rare compositions, and uncirculated grades make this coin a true goldmine for collectors. One of the most exciting parts of the 1944 penny story involves rare minting errors. Due to the transition from steel back to copper, a few leftover 1943 steel planchets, those silver-colored blanks, were accidentally struck with the 1944 design. These errors are now among the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. A 1944 penny made from steel instead of copper is considered one of the rarest modern coins to ever leave the U.S. Mint, but even without the steel error, the 1944 copper wheat pennies can be extremely valuable, especially in pristine, mint state condition. What does that mean? It means the coin has never been circulated, never handled roughly, and has been preserved in nearly perfect form for decades. These coins retain their full, original red shine, known to collectors as red or RD color designation, which greatly boosts their value. Now imagine this: a coin collector stumbles across a box of old family heirlooms. Tucked away inside is a coin folder with a shiny 1944 D mint Lincoln wheat penny inside. It looks nearly flawless, bright, brilliant, and untouched. They decide to have it graded by a professional service. After inspection, it's rated MS67 red, one of the highest possible grades. Only a handful of such coins exist in the world in this pristine condition, and the excitement among collectors is electric. The reverse of the coin displays the iconic twin wheat stalks, encircling the bold words, 1 cent and United States of America. The obverse still features the noble profile of President Abraham Lincoln, his image standing as a reminder of unity, integrity, and freedom. Every curve, every detail, every part of this coin is history in your hand. So what makes this particular coin worth so much? It's a combination of things: historical context, high-grade preservation, low surviving population, and, in some cases, minting errors that elevate the coin from rare to legendary. Coin dealers, auction houses, and private collectors are all eager to get their hands on top-condition 1944 Lincoln pennies, especially those with unique characteristics. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for. Recently, one single 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, struck at the Denver Mint and preserved in exceptional uncirculated condition, certified as MS67 red by PCGS, was auctioned at a major coin event. This coin, a humble 1-cent piece from a time of war, stunned everyone in the room. The final auction price, an unbelievable $673,000. That's right. $673,000 US. For a penny, this coin is proof that history is not only valuable in books and museums, but also hidden in everyday objects like the change in your pocket. If you've got old pennies lying around, now is the time to check them. You never know when you might be holding a small fortune in the palm of your hand. Today, hidden among your loose change or tucked inside an old coin jar could be a tiny piece of history that's worth a massive fortune. Yes, we're talking about an unassuming little coin that most people pass over without a second thought, the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny. But what if I told you that this 1-cent coin could be worth way more than just a penny? In fact, one special example sold for a jaw-dropping amount you'll hear about at the very end of this video. Let's dive deep into the story behind the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny and uncover what makes it so incredibly desirable among collectors all over the world. The year was 1942. America had just entered World War II after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Factories shifted production to support the war, Americans conserved materials, and the government was rationing resources like rubber, gasoline, and even metals. Coinage during this time wasn't just a way to pay for things, it was a reflection of the national effort. Every cent had a story, and every material used had a purpose. This is the setting in which the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny was born. Let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse, you have the timeless profile of President Abraham Lincoln, facing right, a symbol of unity during one of the nation's most challenging times. The word liberty appears to his left, and the phrase, "In God we trust," arches over the top. Beneath Lincoln, the date, 1942, is stamped, either alone if it was minted in Philadelphia, or with a small D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. Flip the coin over, and you're greeted with the beautiful and simple reverse design, 2 stalks of wheat bordering the words, 1 cent and United States of America. It's a reminder of American agricultural roots and a classic design that ended in 1958, making every wheat penny a piece of numismatic nostalgia. Now, you might be wondering, if these pennies were so common, how can they possibly be worth so much today? Well, not every 1942 Lincoln wheat penny is valuable. But certain rare versions, especially those in uncirculated condition or with mint errors, are highly sought after by collectors. The condition of the coin plays a massive role in its worth. Coins that are graded MS65 or higher, which means they're mint state and almost perfectly preserved, are the real stars in the collecting world. Let's talk about mint marks. In 1942, the U.S. Mint struck over 657 million Lincoln pennies in Philadelphia, over 206 million in Denver, and about 85 million in San Francisco. While that may seem like a lot, finding a 1942 Lincoln penny in perfect mint condition, untouched by circulation, with sharp details and original luster, is extremely rare today, especially with the S mint mark. Even more exciting are the error coins that slipped through the cracks of quality control. Some examples were struck slightly off-center, or have double die errors, where certain features like the date or lettering appear doubled due to a misaligned die. These coins are extremely collectible. Then there are transitional errors, coins that were struck using leftover metal blanks from other years, or with slightly different compositions due to wartime resource experimentation. That's where things start to get really valuable. Now imagine this: a man is helping clean out his late grandfather's attic. Among the dusty boxes of books and war memorabilia, he finds a small, old coin folder. Inside are dozens of Lincoln wheat pennies. Most are brown and worn, but one stands out. It's bright, red-toned, and perfectly struck. The date reads 1942 with a small d below it. He decides to send it off to a professional coin grading service. Weeks later, he receives a letter confirming the coin's condition, MS67 red, a near-perfect specimen with full luster and original brilliance. This is the kind of coin that collectors dream of. Coins like this don't just complete a collection, they elevate it. In a recent auction, a 1942 Lincoln wheat penny with exceptional detail, full red color, and preserved in nearly flawless condition was placed on the block. The room was quiet at first. But then the bidding war began. Phone calls from collectors, online bidders across the country, and in-person attendees all competing to own a piece of preserved history, and then came the final bid, the moment that shocked everyone in the room. That simple, tiny, 1-cent coin, sold for a staggering $80,000. Yes, you heard that right, 80,000 US dollars. For a penny. So what does this mean for you? It means that every time you come across an old penny, especially one from the 1940s, you might be holding something far more valuable than you think. It means history is still alive in the smallest corners of our lives, in old jars, dresser drawers, and forgotten boxes in basements and attics, and most importantly, it means you should check your change. Because who knows? You might be the next lucky person to uncover a penny that could change your life. If you enjoyed this video and want to keep learning about rare and valuable coins like the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next coin that could be worth a fortune. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep hunting, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of a single penny.